Have you ever stopped to think about the software that's running in your brain? Not the squishy biological stuff, but the actual programming that helps you make sense of the world, make decisions, and solve problems? Well, today we're going to take a peek under the hood, a tour of your own mind. We'll look at how it organizes everything and even explore some of the common and kind of funny glitches in our thinking. All right, let's start with a really quick experiment. I'm going to say a word, and all I want you to do is notice the very first image that pops into your head. Don't force it, just see what shows up. Ready? The word is dog. Got it? Okay, hold on to that image. So, what did you see? Was it a poodle? Maybe a little chihuahua? You know, for most of us, it's something like a golden retriever or a Labrador. That instant mental picture? That's what psychologists call a prototype. It's your brain's go-to example, the best of file it keeps for any given category, or what we call a concept. Now, these concepts and prototypes, they aren't just floating around randomly in your head. Your brain is way more organized than that. It groups them into these amazing mental frameworks called schemas. The best way to think about it is like a massive, super detailed filing cabinet inside your mind that holds literally everything you know about the world, all neatly sorted. So what happens when we run into something totally new? Well, our mental filing cabinet has two main ways of handling it. The first is assimilation. That's kind of like trying to stuff a new piece of paper into a folder you already have. Or if that doesn't work, we use accommodation, which is when you realize, no, this needs its own brand new folder. And this slide, this illustrates it perfectly. So you have a little kid who has a schema for dog. You know, it's got 4 legs, it's furry, it has a tail. So the first time they see a cat, what do? They point and shout, dog. See, that's assimilation. They're trying to fit the cat into their existing dog folder. But when someone corrects them, their brain has to accommodate this new info. It creates a whole new cat folder, and their understanding of the world gets a little bit richer.
Okay, so we've got a sense of how our minds organize information. Now let's talk about how we use that information to solve problems. Everything from, finding your lost keys to figuring out a really tricky project at work.
So, when you're facing a problem, you've basically got 2 main tools in your mental toolbox. First up is the algorithm. This is the slow, careful, step-by-step method that absolutely guarantees you'll find the right answer, eventually. Then you have the heuristic. This is a mental shortcut, a rule of thumb. It's way faster, but here's the catch. It doesn't promise a perfect solution. It's often just good enough.
So for example, using an algorithm to find your keys would mean you systematically check every single possible place they could be. You check your pocket, then the counter, then the table by the door. It's thorough, and you'll find them for sure. The heuristic approach, that's what most of us do. You just check the 2 or 3 most likely spots first. It's faster, but yeah, you might miss them.
And of course, there's that third, much more mysterious way we solve things. Insight. You know the feeling. It's that sudden flash of inspiration, that aha moment when the solution just seems to pop in your head out of absolutely nowhere. Those fast mental shortcuts, the heuristics, they're incredibly useful. I mean, we'd be lost without them. But sometimes they can act like little bugs in our mental software, causing us to make some pretty predictable mistakes. So let's look at a couple of the most common ones. Let me ask you something. Quick, don't think too hard about it. Just go with your gut. Are there more words in the English language that start with the letter K, or more words that have K as the 3rd letter? If you said words that start with K, you are not alone. That's what most people say. But you'd be wrong. There are way more words with K as the 3rd letter. So why do we all get it wrong? It's because of something called the availability heuristic. Our brain takes a shortcut. It judges how common something is based on how easily examples come to mind. It's super easy to think of kite, king, kitchen. It's a lot harder to instantly pull up words like ask, bake, or like.
Okay, here's another sneaky shortcut, the representative heuristic. This is when we make a judgment based on how well something matches our mental prototype, and in the process, we totally ignore logic or actual statistics. For instance, if you meet someone who's quiet, wears glasses, and loves to read, you might automatically guess they're a librarian instead of, say, a salesperson. Why? Not because it's statistically likely, but because they just represent our idea of what a librarian is like.
So beyond those shortcuts, our thinking is vulnerable to a whole range of other predictable glitches. These are cognitive biases, and they can trap us in these irrational loops of thought, often without us even realizing it's happening. Here are 4 really common traps.
You've got mental set, which is when you keep trying to use an old solution for a new problem. There's framing, where just the way an issue is presented can completely change your decision. The gambler's fallacy, thinking a coin is due for heads after a bunch of tails. And then there's one I think we've all fallen for, the sunk cost fallacy.
The sunk cost fallacy is that little voice that tells you to stick with a bad decision just because you've already put in time or money or effort. Ever forced yourself to finish a really, really bad movie just because you'd paid for the ticket? Yep, that's the one. The trick is to reframe the question. Don't ask, how much have I already spent? Instead, ask yourself, knowing what I know right now, would I still make this investment?
Okay, so we've seen how our minds file away information, and we've definitely looked at a few of its common glitches. But it's not all bugs and errors. How can we actually upgrade our mental software so we can think more creatively? At its heart, creativity is simply the ability to produce ideas that are both novel and valuable. And the really good news is, it's not some kind of magical gift that only a few people are born with. It's a process, and it relies on specific ways of thinking that, honestly, all of us can practice and get better at.
Creative problem solving is usually a two-step dance. First comes divergent thinking. This is the go wide phase. It's all about brainstorming as many possible solutions as you can, no matter how wild or out there they seem. Then comes convergent thinking. This is where you narrow all those options down. You analyze them, and you pick the single best solution.
A classic example of divergent thinking is the good old paperclip test. How many uses can you come up with? You start with the obvious, right? Holding papers together. But then you push it. It can be a tool to reset electronics, a makeshift lockpick, an emergency fishing hook, a tiny little tool for cleaning gunk out of small spaces. You're just generating possibilities, no judgment. So, what's managing all of this? What allows you to switch from that wild brainstorming mode to focused decision-making, to plan your approach, and to actually stay on track? Well, that's your executive functions. Seriously, you should think of these as the CEO of your mind. They're directing all the other processes to help you get stuff done. So, we've taken a quick tour of our mental operating system, from its filing cabinets to its common bugs. But knowing this stuff is one thing. The real power comes from applying it. So my question for you is this. What's one thinking trap, maybe the sunk cost fallacy or that availability heuristic, that you can just try to notice yourself doing this week? After all, awareness is always the first step to thinking just a little bit better.